So this is still at double normal speed, twice normal speed. And you'll notice that all of the divisions are up and online. I have some more troops coming over from Burnside Bridge area that are going to reinforce. And I have to do two things at this point. And I have to start moving. The units on the right side can come up. If the units on the right side near that bridge had come up early, they would have gotten their heads kicked in. But now they can move with the rest of the army and they'll be really overwhelming. They're going to hit the enemy at a very vulnerable place. The other thing, I'm showing you this part. I know that the next phase of the battle is going to be a move on Sharpsburg and a move down to toward Burnside Bridge. So any units that can't participate in this need to start moving toward Sharpsburg, because that's going to be the next phase of the battle, particularly 1st and 2nd Division. And these guys at the bridge, now they can come up and the enemy's going to be weak on that flank. If I had moved them earlier, they would have, and I've done that before and other times I've played this battle, they would have gotten crushed. Those units aren't particularly strong, and if they come out of that little pocket too soon, there's a big counterattack and they just get crushed. So now the big challenge is to cut this pocket of troops off. So you'll see that I'm moving skirmishers down to kind of keep the guys to the south, kind of bottled up, and I want to get them on the other side of the water and keep them there, which they will tend to do. I can't cross Burnside Bridge because, I don't want to set off the end game timer. So they have to stay on this side of the water. I think it really does work better if you move these two units like I just moved. If I'd moved them down along the Antietam Creek further to the south, they do better work down there. The box is almost closed, or the trap is almost closed, but I've got to get the last bit of this completely cut off. There's still a hole for this army to escape. The other thing notice is that the supply wagons keep moving. I think that's the single most important thing you can do, just keep the supply wagons moving. And I don't think anyone has called for ammo. Anyone's gotten even low on ammo at this point. That's crucial. Now, at the very end of this, there's still a hole for the enemy to retreat through, and there's just a couple skirmishers units. It's kind of like Stalingrad. At the beginning of the cutoff, it's just very, very flimsy, and the enemy could break out if they really made a concerted effort, because there's just not much there. And just like at Stalingrad, I have to reinforce that and do something about it. So I don't want these units to get caught in melee, because they're not going to do well in melee. But one unit does get caught, but because there are a whole bunch of units giving supporting fire, the enemy routes, and that's perfect. So now we just have to keep pressure all the way around. The enemy's in pretty bad shape. Fortunately, my skirmishers were able to hold that southern line, and now I get some more infantry units to fill in there from both sides, from both the bridge and 1st Division of 1st Corps, also shifting some units around, and we should be able to seal this up. I fought this battle many times, and sometimes you can bag them all, and sometimes you can't, and that's just how it works out. See, at this point, this is really intense when I'm doing this, and I'm sure you feel it too. You're like right there. You're about to get the big payoff. If you can get the enemy into a really hopeless pocket, then it's just rack up kills and get tons of experience. So I didn't really intend for those guys to go across that little bit of water there. There's way too much infantry on the other side. I just need them to buy time. I don't need them to, be their own task force down there. launching an attack into the enemy position. It's just right there. We're so close to achieving the goal. But still, notice every time the enemy attacks, I retreat, and then the enemy attacking unit gets hit front, flank, and rear, and should be hopeless. So, and once their morale drops and their condition drops enough, they won't be able to attack at all. In fact, they're not even able to fire very much. Their rate of fire drops to almost nothing. Now, at this point, we've got them. But now the challenge becomes the enemy units are going to start to rout. And I don't want the enemy units to rout into my pretty fresh, pretty strong units. First of all, they'll exhaust my units. And secondly, they'll fight to the death, even though the enemy units are routing. A routing unit will fight to the death, inflict huge disproportionate casualties on you, cause your unit to rout, and take it out of the battle for, 20 in-game minutes or whatever it takes your unit. But the biggest thing is it'll cause really big casualties to your army. I've fought some battles where my army suffered almost no casualties, and then at the end, when I'm rounding up the what's left of the enemy, and 3 or 4 enemy units route into my unit, and then all at once I suffer a whole bunch of casualties. It's not right. It's a broken mechanic. It shouldn't happen that way. At this point, all these guys in this pocket should just evaporate or be done or surrender. They should not have the option of doing this moving around thing into your units. It just should not even be a possibility. I mean, if there was something like they were all attacking at one point trying to get a breakthrough, you could understand that, but that's not what this is. This is just a bunch of routing units are retreating into your position, and units just should not retreat into the enemy position. They should retreat away from the enemy position, and the problem is the AI can't figure out what away from the enemy is. It should be back into the center of this clump. So, yeah, but what's happening is they're retreating south. Because I guess it's calculating that, there are more enemy troops to the north, so we have to retreat south. But no, enemy units should not retreat into enemy units that are in perfect condition. It's absurd. Any routing units that attack, that come in contact with an enemy unit in good conditions should instantly surrender. Done. So the enemy attacking with just artillery toward Dunker Hill makes no sense whatsoever, but I've seen that happen before. That's not the first time. So that's basically just 2 easily killed units. And that's nice. The enemy attacks with its... again, makes no sense. Why would the supply wagons move into the enemy line? That makes no sense at all. And there's one of my units. Gets caught in melee, and the enemy unit surrenders, so that works out okay. The problem is some of the larger units will not instantly surrender. And I think that is about to happen. Yeah, I'm trying to get these guys to retreat, not get tangled up. But again, Shouldn't even have to do that. Playing this game of trying to stay out of the path of the retreating mob should not be something we have to do. Okay, I'm looking very carefully at the losses my units are about to experience because they can't get out of the way. And I'm going to try to hit these guys, maybe front, flank, and rear, and inflict as much damage as possible. As long as the units are small, maybe we can take them out. Yeah, but I'm going to have to let these guys go. So I'm looking at the unit that's most to the south, and I gotta tell you, every single soldier I lose in that melee right there just pisses me off. It just makes me angry. It's, yeah. So he gets 4 units, I think. 4 units survive and get out of there. Um, none of them should, in reality, have been able to escape, but he gets 4 out. So not everyone got to fight in that last bit, and I should have really started to move that big clump of units to the north, get them repositioned, because now we have to establish a line along kind of this hill and take Sharpsburg. And then after we've taken Sharpsburg, secure this little hill, push the enemy across this little tiny creek. I don't want to advance anymore until I can get the artillery rolled up in support of a position. And there's the artillery. I want the infantry to be right in front of the artillery and just wait. Get a second line of infantry moved up and have them wait and stay out of the combat until they get their condition back up. And then a bunch of troops, mostly First Corps, to go over and start forming a line just on this side of Sharpsburg. So, that's kind of the plan at this point. It's time to get some units to pause. I have a bunch of units that have not been fighting for a while, and they've recovered condition. Those units can go ahead and lead the next attack. I just need to get them in position. And I also need to occupy these victory locations. So that's what's happening now, is primarily get a stable line on this hill right before the body of water. If the enemy wants to attack across that little creek, that's terrific. Again, I can't attack across Burnside Bridge because that would end the scenario too soon. And there's still a lot of kills to get yet. So that's what's happening now. I don't really want to get involved in too much, certainly no melee, but basically now it's time to take up kind of a holding pattern, get the supply wagons, get the commanders moved into a better location. Yeah, extend the flank all the way across Sharpsburg, and that's what's going to happen next. And of course, get the unit resupplied. I don't know why I'm charging across that creek. That attack seems to be a little bit premature. I mean, I can see why I'm moving some of those troops across because they don't have any experience, and it's a great opportunity for them to get in and just mix it up, which is, I'm always thinking of that. But my artillery is not close enough to really support that advance. I would need to have that artillery a lot closer. So I think that was probably a mistake. Yeah, you can see I'm moving up supply wagons and artillery. I should have waited until that artillery got in a better position to support the advance. Then it would have been okay. So yeah, normally I would never advance. Normally you won't see infantry advance without artillery support. So that wasn't a long time without artillery support, but I don't know. Maybe I thought it would be a good idea to get the infantry just a little bit forward to make way for the artillery to move up. I don't know what I was thinking. But because if you take a look, there's a lot of artillery back there, and it's getting hard to get everything, to find a place for everything. Yeah, these units over here, anything that moves up to occupy Burnside Bridge is just going to get hit with a lot of infantry and artillery. There's no wagon over there. If you have a position like that and there's no supply wagon, then just keep your artillery on fire. It'll fire at 1/3 speed, but it doesn't consume any ammo out of your supply wagon. And just let them blast away at 1/3 speed. It doesn't cost you anything, and there's no penalty. So, and that's what basically they're doing. They have all day. They can just, anybody who happens to move up, they can just fire all day for free and inflict casualties. So that's a pretty good role. And really, I've captured, I don't know, what, 4 supply wagons? I could have sent one of the supply wagons over there. So yeah, what you see again, this is actually the beginning of another flanking maneuver, is all of these troops are moving to my right flank, and the idea will be to do another wide flanking movement and kind of push all of these guys into Burnside Bridge, into the Antietam Creek. So it's going to take a while to get everybody moved over there, and I know that reinforcements are going to come in and launch a counterattack for the south. That's great. I want to, more than anything else, give my infantry, my inexperienced raw troops, as much experience as they can possibly get, and get the artillery some experience. So I'm using my cav as a recon force over on a recon on the far right, so I have visibility of the Confederate troops coming in. And now I'm doing it right. I'm moving artillery up to support. Could be doing a better job of moving the supply wagons around. I don't see the supply wagons moving, so that means eventually there's going to be a problem. If the supply wagons sit for too long, there's going to be a problem. But look how hopeless this situation is now. They're so outnumbered. Man, that's a lot of troops coming in. Yeah, these green troops really do just fine as long as they have plenty of artillery support. So, okay, there's the old shuffling around thing, setting off, the accordion effect. Units bumping into each other and driving them across the map. when you take a look at how far these units have, particularly First Corps, how far these units have walked, and now from the encirclement, the big encirclement, now all the way back to the right flank of the army to do a kind of a wheeling motion and create another pocket of Confederate prisoners. It's that's a lot of walking, and that's why I put perks into stamina. You can only do stuff like that if your troops have a lot of stamina and a lot of condition, and they can recover very quickly. So from very long movements. I mean, that's a lot of maneuvering. But I think the biggest thing is that units move according to a bigger plan. I'm not just attacking the units in front of me, but there's a reason why I'm moving units somewhere, and then as soon as that phase of the battle is over, they're going to go somewhere else. And the bigger maneuvers, the way the divisions are maneuvered, has a huge, huge impact on how the battle unfolds, because I'm going to put divisions in a place that makes the enemy position impossible. And once my divisions get where I want them, the enemy is going to be at a huge disadvantage. So it's never a matter of just bringing up troops and charging. I never do that, not even in Muleshoe, which is a real grindy kind of battle. It's always more about maneuver and about making the enemy position hopeless, even before shots are fired. So if you take a look at this, the clump of troops that are in that little pocket that you can see near Burnside Bridge, they're going to be cut off. They're not going to be just charged and wiped out by exchanging fire with troops. Although my troops are getting lots of experience, which is great. It's more about their position is going to be hopeless because they're going to get cut off, and the troops that are going to cut them off are advancing in a place where there's no enemy. So I'm advancing into positions where there are no enemy troops. Now I let that unit get into melee because it was only an 11, probably with farmers or reboard farmers, and he was surrounded by lots of other infantry and artillery, and all of those troops got experience in that exchange. And really, there's no way around it. Your green troops have to take casualties to get experience. There's no way around it. And if his condition went to 0, I would just replace him with another fairly green unit that would step up and get experience until it ran out of condition. But look how well they did. They actually did really well. Mostly because there's a lot of them. They're supporting each other in double lines, and there's a lot of artillery also pitching in. So this battle is just about over. I can tell this is coming to an end. And that's a lot of troops. And I really should pause and roll up some artillery, but I make a decision here actually just to end it. There are a couple other battles where in the same position I would just have my infantry stop and roll the artillery up and just get kills until the enemy is all gone. You'll see battles like that. But in this case, I think it's because it's been a really long battle that I'm just thinking, now let's just bring it, I'm done. Everything's turned out as great as I could hope for, actually better than I could hope for. Take the flag, then you'll see the 15-second countdown timer kicked in. It's only 15 seconds, which is 15 minutes, and the battle's over. 3, 2, 1, 0, and done. And again, 1 to 7.8 or 1 to 8 with medicine. About 37,000 enemy casualties. And I mean, that's great. Everybody had a lot of experience, and I'm really happy with the battle. It was fun to fight. Antietam is a battle that's given to you that you can just get a crushing victory, and it's all a matter of how much you want to take advantage of this. And if you really take advantage of it, you can get a ton of experience for your army. And you also get the Iron Brigade, which is a terrific unit. And you should be able to get lots of experience. Look at this. Look at the kills. That's just terrific. 3,500 kills, 400 losses. I mean, that's just absolutely great. My artillery should have done better. I've had battles where my artillery did much better than this, but again, in this campaign, I babied my artillery more than I have in any other playthrough that I've done. And so I'm not getting the kills that I normally get. Normally I'd get at least 1,000 kills with my 24-pound howitzers, but I only get about 600 with the one that's on the screen now. And that's because I'm not playing aggressively with them. I'm babying them. And that's not how they should really be used. So, yeah, to me, it's also really important building an officer corps. I'm working to get every division commander to be in all 5 corps to be 3-star, and I'm buying pretty much every officer that becomes available for about the first third of the game, because I need to build a really, really strong officer corps. And from Antietam to maybe 2/3 into the game is where you have a real opportunity to build a very, very powerful officer corps. And that's crucial to having a great game, a great campaign. So those last units that show 0, I'm pretty sure that's because the commander and the wagon count as units for your corps. So the last couple units don't come into the battle. I'm really happy with these promotions. That's great. And I like getting, I got almost 5,000 reboard. I'm going to make use of those, and I'm happy to have them. That's terrific. I'll take all free weapons the game gives me and make use of them. Lots of men, lots of money, and the Iron Brigade, which is, yes, the Iron Brigade, absolutely terrific. Not my first 3-star unit. You'll see that the artillery unit is also 3-star. So we'll go to camp and beef this army up some more. And yeah, I always say first thing after a battle, because sometimes things don't work out, or if your game crashes, you don't want to have to redo that. So done. And I'll see you in camp.